I'm live. We are live at home. We're going to talk a little bit about that last video we did. Did a video on how to kind of see what your bowling balls are doing. Which bowling ball hooks sooner, which bowling ball hooks later. How do we figure it out? How do we know which bowling balls hook earlier? How do we know which balls are going through skid hook and phase, or skid hook and roll phases? And what is the skid hook and phase roll? A lot of people are confused by that, and even some really good bowlers are confused by it. And that's why, I mean, it's important, but I don't know that I would go too much into detail. I think it's more important to kind of just look at change of direction a little bit. Trying to read the lanes front to back rather than left to right is really important in this. So on that last video I just posted not long ago, we talked a little bit about how we can see the difference in a bowling ball. Let me get the TV out of there so I don't get copyright. Well, we talked about how to put a piece of tape on your positive axis, and you can kind of see how your core takes over in the front part of the lane. Now, I had a couple people comment on there and make some comments and send me messages and everything that says, oh, that's not quite right. And in a way, they're correct. The skid phase, if you were to think about it as skid hook and roll, technically at that point when that positive axis point starts to wobble, that doesn't mean that the skid phase is complete technically. It's close, but it's not quite complete because the ball is still obviously skidding. That's just where the core is starting to shift and starting to change. So that's where the ball starts to flare a little bit. But to illustrate how this works and how you can see the difference from ball to ball, based on layout, based on surface, all that stuff, you can do this portion of what I just talked about. You can put a piece of tape on your positive axis point and be able to see where it kind of takes over. Now, another technique that a lot of people use is to then put a piece of tape up. And if you go to like Storm's page, they'll talk about 3 different parts of migration, basically, in your core. And they'll show you exactly how that works. Alex over there, Hoskins, does a pretty good job with explaining that out, based on migration of the core and whatever else. But for this video, I just want to make sure people know that this is just a visual. This is a way to give you something to kind of look at, to kind of pay attention to, so you can actually see, okay, this ball is hooking, or this ball is starting up a little bit quicker than this ball, and this ball is starting a little bit later than that ball. And that just because it's a shiny ball or just because it's a dull ball, that doesn't mean it's going to be earlier or later. That's not necessarily how it goes. And sometimes you can have a dull bowling ball that goes longer as far as core value goes, that the core actually doesn't pick up until later, but the surface is making it start seeing friction sooner. So the skid phase would actually be a little bit sooner than what it's showing. So it's a little bit confusing and it's really hard to teach, but if we just simply focus on motion of what we can see and not try to get too technical with it, then we can kind of make the game a whole lot easier. So the next time you go practice, I would say go out, put a piece of tape on your positive axis, figure out what your positive axis point is, go put a piece of tape on, videotape yourself throwing shots, and look at and literally watch that all the way down the lane. You'll see it start to make its changes throughout the lane. And then you can put tape on different parts of the ball or above the fingers, and you can really watch roll that way as well. But make it to where you can see something on the ball. Like these really dark bowling balls, these black bowling balls, dark blue bowling balls, they're really difficult to see them change motion on the lane. So we have to do something to kind of pay attention or to be able to see. Now, like that video I posted today, the results that we see with that positive axis in the front, that may change. Like if we were to literally look at those 3 bowling balls on a fresh pattern and look at the technical skid phase of where, they basically look the same. They would basically look like, if we didn't have that piece of tape there and only went by when the ball started to change direction, literally change direction, then they would look the same through the skid phase for the most part. It'd be within inches, I'm sure. So this is that video gives you a visual aid to be able to actually see whether the ball is starting to, or the core, whatever you want to call it, is starting to pick up emotion, starting to make some type of a change at some point. So the hardest part about bowling is understanding what ball to go to. Like, okay, well, this ball's hooking a little bit earlier, so I need to go to something that's not as early. I need to get the ball down lane just a little bit. So it's really dependent on the person, and it's really dependent on, you know, the situation. You know, if I'm bowling on a short pattern, a ball that is super strong might actually give me the visual that it's going straight because it's hooking immediately, it's hooking super early, and it's getting into the roll phase way too early, which is making the ball look like it's not hooking at all. You know, so it's all based on it's really hard to see with the eye, and it's a lot of getting to some experience on different patterns that can really teach you how to, you know, see ball motion a little bit better. Ball motion is one of the hardest things to teach in lane play. Lane play. There's a reason why there really isn't any books, or there hasn't been a book out that teaches lane play, because lane play is relative to what you're bowling on, to where you're bowling. Things are different everywhere. So just because you're bowling on one specific pattern in one center, that doesn't mean it's going to be the same in another center. You're not going to end up playing them the same. You could end up playing like call it cheetah, 35-foot cheetah. You could go and bowl on 35-foot cheetah at a woodhouse, and you're going to play a specific part of the lane, and then go bowl on that same cheetah pattern put out in a synthetic house that's on the Brunswick Pro Anvil lanes, and you might end up playing 20 boards left of where you played on the wood. So it's dependent on what you see. So it's mostly experience and seeing it. There is no right or wrong way per se. I'd say there's more wrong than there is absolutes and right. There is no absolute right way to do things, but there are some wrongs that do come into play. So we kind of just try to avoid those. But you can get to success based on, you know, doing things differently. You don't have to do it the exact same way as everybody else. So I guess the point of this whole thing is just to kind of let people go back and watch that video and not try to be so technical about it. Like, I know that just because that dot starts to, you know, rotate, that doesn't mean it necessarily technically has left the skid phase. I get it. Like, I'm not an idiot, but it is one way to visually see that something's changing with those bowling balls. So we need to be able to see it, and we need to be able to make a clear understanding of what ball is different from the other ones. So pay attention to that. Go watch that. If you got any questions, I'll sit here for a second. If anybody's got any questions, and I'll try to answer them. If you have anything at all, I'll answer them. If not, I'll get out of here and I'll let you guys go do whatever you got to do. Hey, what's this? Oh, there's buttons. There's buttons that work. Sweet. I didn't know I did that. Now I do. But all right, 8 minutes long. Nice short little video here, just for those who care. Some people don't. Some people do. But take that little information, use it however you want. Call me stupid if you want. It's fine. No big deal. But anyway, we'll see you guys later. Take care.